right, hi everyone. We're back on May 12th with Lawn Chair Farming, and today we're still in Stoughton, and we are with Scott Amera, and we are going to talk about rotational grazing and shade structure.
Sounds
So, why don't you give us kind of the 30,000 foot view of your farm and what you guys do here?
All right. I live outside of Stoughton. I have a 40-acre farm, and 25 acres of it is in rotational grazing. It is a wonderful program for myself and my son, who has beef cattle, and we run cow-calf pairs on the acreage. We have it set up into 10 sections, and each section is then divided by 3. So we rotate every day. The cows get a new section of fresh grass, and then we move them to the next pasture when that is eaten down.
Okay, Marie tells me you're a meticulous grazer. So how do the cows aren't in here yet. How do you decide, when to put them in, when to move them?
There's a big learning curve for it. When I first started, I wanted it to be like a lawn look to it, nice and short, everything even, and I would leave the animals out too long. And I learned through my mistake that it's better to have the grass grow up to 4 to 6 inches, and it's okay to have spotty areas. It is time to move them on, and the cows, they'll go to where the food source is. And so if you give up or their favorite food source, and if you give them the whole pasture, they'll just go to one spot and overeat it and leave the other grasses behind. And so it is nice when you keep them in a smaller area. They'll clean everything up before you move.
Yeah, less selective, and maybe they'll even eat some of the weeds.
Yes.
Okay.
We always say cows eat dessert first.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, and then I guess we'll start with the obvious. We're sitting under this beautiful shade structure. We get a lot of questions about this. Have you found it useful?
I love it.
Okay.
You really see the habits of the cows and the calves. They will come in during the hot part of the day. They will find their favorite spot to lay. You'll see the calves sometimes go out during the hot time and they'll graze and then come back. But the cows really depend on having this structure. And it's wonderful. The one we have here is very portable and easy to use. I have a four-wheeler, small four-wheeler, and I can pull it any place. Very easy to maintain.
Okay, great.
And you've got you mounted the mineral right on it.
Yep. My son came up with the idea of putting the mineral right on the shade. Makes it so easy. You don't have another piece of equipment that you'd have to move from field to field.
Yeah, save some time.
Yes.
Okay. What was it? So do you use it all year round, even when it's...
The cows and the calves are out here Mayish, middle of May to September, October, depending on how much grass is here, and then the shade's put away for the winter.
Okay. Would you say it allows you to keep the animals out here at times you normally wouldn't, or?
The shade doesn't protect them in any way except for keeping them cooler. You really don't gain anything for a longer season.
But maybe they consume more during this.
Oh yeah,
days,
absolutely. Right? I think the cow comfort is greater. Yes,
okay.
You can see that.
Great.
It's worth having. It's worth the investment.
Okay. Great.
What else? I remember, so, you said this is a 40-acre farm, about 25 is in pasture, and there's a lot of woods. You've got some crep out here, is that right?
I don't have any crops.
Not crep. The buffer program, is that out
here
at all?
I have CRP trees.
Okay. I do remember, and of course animals aren't allowed in CRP, but I remember part of the thought with getting the shade is that when it did get really hot, you would probably otherwise push animals back into the barnyard, which is closer to the stream. So this allows more even grazing throughout those hot periods too, and keeps animals, where they should be versus maybe on a bare lot, which is what sometimes you have to do if it gets too hot.
Absolutely. But I would prefer to keep the ground covered with the grasses. And when you pull them off and put them in the dry lot, often you're going to have a couple acres of bare dirt all the time.
Right.
And that's not worth it.
Right.
We had some trees in that area, and if they're in there too long around the trees, they'll destroy the trees too.
Sure.
So this way I'm saving the trees that I have around, and then they have the shade where they're eating.
Okay. And let's see, what else about the shade structure would be interesting? So you said it's easy to move. You can do it with the four-wheeler.
I'm curious, do you move the cattle into the next paddock and then the shade structure, or the shade structure and then the paddock?
Great question. If they're hungry, it's so easy to open up the gate or the opening, and it just takes that lead cow to bring it all in, and there's no problem. If I go different from the routine and go a different way, if I hook up the structure, they'll follow the structure.
Okay.
So I can move them any place on the farm, like a parade with the structure in front.
Well, I remember when James, I don't know if he called me one night and he told me when the cows got out and they were going down in, he said he was freaking out. He was calling people. All he had to do was start up the four-wheeler, and they all came back, because I think when you start up the four-wheeler to move the shade structure, they hear it and they know fresh pasture. So he started up the four-wheeler and all the cows were already coming back.
Yep.
So they're trained well.
It is wonderful. And then be out there with them. They're pets in the rotational grazing.
Right. And you put eyes on them every day. If you move them every day, you see if there's a health issue. You're checking calves, things like that.
Yes. There's more labor with the structure, because, like you said, you're checking on them. Watch the weather. If the winds are going to be over 30 miles an hour, I'm out here with it, trying to shut it.
Yep.
And then opening it up in the morning for them.
Yep.
So you're out here twice a day to check on them.
Sure.
And that's okay, because I don't mind being out here with the animals.
Right.
I do remember a few storms coming through and trying to shut it with high winds and lightning and rain coming down.
Right. Not ideal.
Not ideal. Got to plan ahead.
Right.
Learn that lesson.
Yeah. But I mean, just watching you open it, that was like maybe 3 minutes. I mean, it really didn't take you very long.
It's very simple to open and shut.
Yep.
Yes. And I have a routine. It opens and shuts where the four-wheeler sits. So it's perfect that I can just stand up, unhook it, and then it opens and shuts on its own.
Cool. Oh, I see what you mean. The hitch is right underneath where you... That's smart. Yeah, that makes sense. Great. Let's see. Anything else you want to, like, what would... I don't know. I feel like that was good.
That was good, yeah. I'm curious, so what... Were you doing anything with this before the rotational grazing, or?
It was cropped.
Okay.
Had corn, beans, wheat, alfalfa here. This is the end of the glacial drift. So my hills are really small pebbles and sandy. And when you planted corn, you'd get some great corn in the low areas and nothing on the hills. Sure. And having this cover all the time, it makes a big difference. And I would have to say that even with the dry sand and small pebbles, you are getting some good advantage of having the grass growing there. It's worth putting the cover crop over.
Yeah, and I think it's just gonna get better.
Yes.
As these root systems develop, you're only a couple years in, things already look really... I mean, I'm always impressed when I come out here. And it's always good if Gene Schriefer comes out and says that it's a good pasture.
Okay,
you're doing okay. If Gene gives you the thumbs up, he is our critical eye. So if he gives you the thumbs up, that's always good. What I love about this is I feel like you guys were really one of the first farms in the area that I got to work with. Mm-hmm. And this was one of the first fields that we converted. And it wasn't that long ago, but and what's neat is to see how it's grown out. You guys started here and just with beef, and James already has his dairy heifers out on pasture at the home dairy farm, and he's working on getting the dairy cows out. I mean, that's just in a few years, you guys have kind of transformed this neighborhood, and you've got the neighbors doing it.
Yes.
How many neighbors are now seeding downfield?
I don't know.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Quite a few, I can tell you. So that's really great. So I really feel like you guys were kind of like patient zero as far as grazing goes in this little community, and so it's just been really great to see it grow from here.
The key word you said is patience. Because I wanted that perfect lawn looking field that first year, and you preached over and over, it takes time, it will come. And little suggestions, we could reseed here, or it will come in. Just look at this type of grass you have, it's going to spread. That knowledge is great. And then you were talking about people coming out here. A big one for me was when we went to look at the shade at other farms.
Yeah, we went and visited that dairy farm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And was it like 10 degrees difference under the shade?
Yes.
And in the sun, we had a real warm day.
Yep.
And it made a big difference.
Right. I remember we had to herd the pregnant lady under the
Yes,
shade structure. Because it was the same thing, because that dairy farmer was saying how he felt like his cows settled better under a shade structure than they did before he had it. So that was... Yeah, and I would think with beef cows, you're just going to get, everything we talk about is, weight of gain per day. You're just going to increase. Instead of losing ground in that July-August period, hopefully you can either stay steady or continue to gain some weight. So, yeah, I remember that day. That was Bert Paris's daughter was out.
Oh.
It's about education. Each day you learn something new.
And you learn to accept things like dandelions, right?
That's right. The dandelions are out in the field here, not on my lawn.
Right.
Wait, all the seeds travel to the lawn, so I gave up on that.
You know what, though? It's the first thing for the bees in the spring, and I'm sure this field has been buzzing with bees, which is...
And the cows like it.
And the cows eat it, and it's super nutritious.
So
Quality, I think it's just, changing your perspective on what it's supposed to look like versus what's actually a healthy pasture for. And like us, cattle should eat a diversity of grasses and legumes and forbs, and they definitely get that here. So, and it's not that weedy.